Welcome everybody to our weekly community AMA and call that we have for BrightID. And there's no topic today, so we'll just be talking about anything that anybody has on their mind. Some things that have been on my mind are Vitalik's recent post about I think, what did he call them, Michael?
Soul-bound NFTs.
Yes.
Soul-bound, right.
Soul-bound, yeah.
I thought that was really cool. Do you want to tell us more about that, especially since you created a really cool forum post of your own on that topic? Maybe you could tell us some more about that.
Yeah, sure. So I think the basic idea that Vitalik had is that some NFTs should actually be not transferable in the wild, like I can sell it to anybody, but instead they should actually be just for one person. So whatever, if I have a special achievement or something, or for example, I have some NFTs from Gitcoin that I got for something I did, and this is nothing that I should be selling to another person, because this will change the meaning of the NFT. So right now I can say, hey, look, I have this NFT and it's something special that only I have. And if I could just buy this from somewhere, it loses value. It's not the same meaning anymore. So the problem that you cannot just say, okay, I make this NFT non-transferable at all, because then whatever, if I lose my wallet access or whatever, or I need to move something around in my addresses, I cannot do this. So the idea is that you can just tie the NFT to a person instead of to an address. So that is the underlying idea.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things about BrightID, one of the potential uses for it that we haven't quite figured out how to unlock yet, is using the same social recovery that you can use to unlock your BrightID to unlock other things. For example, a soul-bound NFT or a wallet that you may like another wallet address or something like that. Being able to tie that to your BrightID so that you could unlock it with that. I think that could potentially be really useful. But then also, I think in your forum post you mentioned that there's two different ways you could try to do this. You could try to make a soul-bound NFT using BrightID. One way is to just try to restrict the transfer of it based on a registry. So in BrightID, you can create a smart contract registry that can record which identifiers you've used with your BrightID. You can publicly record that without exposing the BrightID itself. So you can basically say, okay, these 5 addresses are all linked together to the same BrightID account without even saying which BrightID account it is. And that provides a way to say, well, okay, if I transfer between one of these 5, it's still the same person. So that's one interesting aspect of it. And then the other thing is just to track whether or not when a BrightID has been transferred, whether or not it's done in a way that is to the same person. So they're kind of related, but one needs an on-chain registry and kind of enforces it in the NFT, and the other can do the check potentially at the time of the transfer, and maybe doesn't need an online registry to do it, but just some sort of proof that can be checked from a BrightID node. So there's a couple of different approaches to it, but I think they're both really interesting. Yeah, it looks like Victor has something to say.
Well, the soul-bound terminology that came from video games. And it's to know that usually is when the developers of the video game wants to give something for free to the community, but they don't want to affect the market of items that is trading in the game. So what they do is you open up that item and you keep that item to your character. The item is going to be soul-bound, so you cannot trade that item later. But I mean, it's just to destroy the value of the NFT. That's the goal of the soul-bound. It's no more. Just destroying the value for trading of the NFT. So in some aspect, if you want that your NFT doesn't worth anything, because you can do that kind of functionality in different ways, just not need to be soul bound. You can find different ways or functionalities for an NFT without destroying the value on the market. But what he think about the soul, but I mean, using that terminology is just for that, I think, just to set to the community, this NFT is just for you. Maybe could have an utility, but just for you. You cannot trade that NFT. It has no value. I think that's the real goal of that word, the word soul bound.
Yeah, I think another good example is, for example, a voting right. If you have a DAO which issues voting rights in a form of NFT, so it shouldn't be possible that I can buy votes from other persons, so I have more voting power. So this would be a nice solution for this scenario, that if I get a voting NFT, only I can use it, no one else. But I still can transfer it between my own addresses. I can move it to another wallet, whatever, but I cannot transfer it to someone else. That is not me.
Yeah, like your ID card in your country. I mean, your ID card has a physical value, but it's only worth for you. I mean, there is way to use your identity from votations and kind of stuff. But I mean, the real purpose is that only you can use your ID card. So we can say that the ID card is all bound to you, something like that. It has no commercial value, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this will work really well with decentralized identifiers. That standard that's coming out of W3C. Once we have identity wallets and we can say, okay, this is my decentralized identifier that I'm using to hold this NFT. I can also use it to hold credentials, and I have this recovery method for it, so that maybe you can use BrightID as a recovery method for your decentralized identifier that is then associated with other credentials and other NFTs. I think that'll make it really easier. That'll be easier than having relying on a BrightID contract registry to be deployed somewhere to keep track of. Because for that, I think you'd need a new registry for every NFT potentially, and that could be more cumbersome than just allowing people to manage it themselves through a decentralized identifier and an identity wallet. I think that's more ideal.
Yeah, I think you get to a real good point there, because I mean, what is the soul of the NFT? Is a wallet. So you can trade a wallet. I can give you my wallet if you give me something. So it's not entirely soul bound to the person like that. So when you mix up the identity factor with the soul bound factor, is pretty interesting. I think is the next step in the soul bound concept.
Yeah, I think ideally it's self-sovereign in that you control how to recover and authorize the use of this identifier, and then that opens the door to use things like NFTs and other credentials. So I think that's ideal. Until we get there, it's also possible for the issuer of the NFT to kind of manage things on their end by having a contract that allows people to register with BrightID and then and kind of publicly state, okay, this is the identifier that I'm using for this NFT. And then if they want to use multiple ones, or they want to register a recovery method, something like that, they would have to do it with this kind of public registry that's then associated with the NFT. But that's, yeah, to me, that's not like, that shouldn't be the end goal. I think a better end goal is to have it be self-sovereign. So yeah, I think maybe, are there any other comments on this topic? Because we have another question that's on a different topic. Okay, we can always come back to this one if there's more interest in it. Okay, so Taz asked about the technical roadmap. So last year we had a Q2 roadmap, which had a bunch of goals. Some were more ambitious than others. And we, so yeah, let's give an update on those. So let me pull that up actually. Maybe I can even share my screen and pull up this
Got
roadmap.
a link to the Medium article if that helps.
Yep, thanks. So let's go to, here we go. Okay, so we thought we could get this done in 3 months, and then we realized, like this was before we had plans to launch Bright Dow, and so we ended up spending a lot of our time diverting a lot of our time to launching Bright Dow. Now that that's launched, after that launch, we went back. So it launched in September. Then we went back and completed some of these. But let's go through it. So we finished node discovery. That was a way for clients to find the best node to use. You can actually go and look in your app, and you can even see which node you're connected to. And there's certain things that there's certain criteria that so latency is one of them, and then also there's certain ways that the BrightID mobile app detects whether a node is up or down. So you can, oh, that's funny. Okay, yeah, my BrightID wasn't loading for a second. So you can see right at the bottom, it tells me what node I'm connected to. I'm connected to this node, and let's see if I click on it, does something happen? Yep. So it just shows me. It shows me the URL of that node that I'm connected to.
Cool.
And it looks like I can even switch to another node if the app for some reason isn't detecting that there's a problem, but I think there's a problem, I can switch to another node. So that's nice. So that's done. Anti-Sybil 1 experiment with random walks through grass built from new, stronger connection levels. So we have 2 experiments that came out of this that are both still being actively developed, but one has actually launched. So B2 and Aura came out of this. And you might notice if you've made enough connections that you might have a B2 level under your name in your BrightID. And that shows you how well connected you are according to the B2 verification. There's also another one that we've talked about, and you can see a post about it in our forum. That's the Aura verification level, which is, it makes a lot of really important kind of radical changes based on our, to the way BrightID verification works based on our observation of user behavior. So that's a really interesting one to look into. And that's still, that right now that's in closed beta, but we want to get that launched ASAP because we do think that could be the evolution of BrightID. It's really interesting. So blind signatures enable linking external apps and sponsoring using blind signatures. That's done, but it's still being tested, and we're still finding little bugs here and there, but it is done and usable. Multi-device support. So we finished the back end. I think we also finished the front end, but I think it might need a lot of testing to make sure that it's not going to break existing functionality. Do you want to, Michael, do you want to like fill us in quickly where you think, how far you think that is?
So we have a branch where Marty is supposed to do most of the development work, but it's not yet merged and not released. So there's some things Marty is still working on, but I think the base is there. It's just some details that he is still figuring out. So it shouldn't take too long to get this implemented or released.
Yeah, so this is getting very close to being done. Anti-Sybil 2, basically that just connects with Anti-Sybil 1. We already talked about that. And we've done, actually, they've done a lot of study. So Aura is not usable yet, so we can't find out this we can't get like this real information from actual usage. We have some toy usage that we're using to help improve the interface, but we can't improve the verification method yet because we haven't actually launched it. But B2, we've been gathering real data from that and constantly improving it. And then the hardening node security. So this is one of these things that's we're going to keep iterating on. This one, we'll keep coming back to this. I think the most important change that we've made recently with this is just making it easier for more people to run BrightID nodes, because a lot of the security against denial of service attacks is based around just having the ability to fall back to other nodes. So that node discovery is part of it, being able to choose a better node if a node has problems, and allowing more people to run nodes. So we're gonna keep iterating on that. But yeah, I mean, I would say that so we've definitely made progress on all of these and launched almost all of them. And like I said, the no security we'll keep iterating on, and the multi-device support is very close to being done. So I think that's a pretty fair update of
Yeah,
all the
that's
things that we said last year.
awesome. Thank you. You guys got a lot done. What's this year look like, or what are kind of the next few hot
Yeah,
items
so
on the technical roadmap?
Yeah. So I think some of the interesting things that are going to come out this year, obviously we want to launch Aura. That's going to be a really big deal. I would like to see. So we have something that's in the works. It's kind of a revamp of the app view that makes it look more like a traditional app store. And I wish Dama was here to show some screenshots. Maybe I can actually find some. I'm going to share my screen again and see if I can dig up some Keybase messages that show some of this.
Hey, Adam, while you look that up, I'll point out a key one is the snapshot strategy. Is it live now? Is it the meeting we had?
Yeah, so I mean, it works for it. So it's kind of hidden. We haven't opened it up for other DAOs to use, but Songa DAO is using it. I tried it yesterday and it worked. So it's there. I think our goal, or at least the goal that I want to try to push them towards, is making that front end that they created for setting up the snapshot registry usable by more than just Songa DAO.
So jump in, Toss. What this allows is a snapshot strategy that marries both BrightID and the ownership of, in this case, an NFT, but it could also be an ERC20 token. And our idea is great. So in Songada's case, hey, you have to own one of their NFTs to be a voter. If you own 10, you still get one vote. The same thing should be generalizable. So a DAO could say, hey, if you have 100,000 tokens, you're maybe you get more and more voting, but once you get to that, that's it. You don't get to have any more say than that. And we think that that's a very generalizable thing for all sorts of DAOs to use. So super excited to have that virtually launched, stealth launched now.
Cool.
And the cool thing about that is, while we help folks build it, we didn't build it. It was built using BrightID.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so the founder of Snapshot, Fabian, started it, and then the Songa DAO folks kind of finished it and have been adding polish to it and making it usable. But going back to the applications, so the application screen should help to make apps more discoverable. As we add more apps, we need a way for users to find the ones that they're interested in. And this also goes along with the sponsorship model. So these apps have a way. So what sponsoring users means is basically you pay to support the BrightID as a public good by agreeing to sponsor your users, and then that kind of, the more users you sponsor, the more you rise to the top of the default sort, which you can see on apps.brightid.org. But you'll also be able to see that in this new app screen. And then there's different ways to search for apps and et cetera. So it'll be more like a traditional app store. So that's coming. And let me see if there's anything else that's in our Keybase that's actually, how do I get out of this? Maybe this. Oh, it's one of those things where there's it's hidden behind my Zoom window. Okay. I thought there was one other thing that was like a sort of See, I'm trying to remember. I think there's one other thing that had to do with like, yeah, one other thing that had to do with verification, like streamlining verifications that was more of like a user facing, kind of like an app level thing, but I'm not thinking of it right now. But,
Is there-
but yeah. Yeah. go ahead.
How about like testing and improving the anti-Sybil algorithms? Is there kind of ongoing work in that area, or do you have like a kind of a roadmap for that? And also because there was a Moloch grant recently for like testing some of the anti-Sybil identities, including BrightID. Do you know if anything's been doing, if anybody's been doing testing using that kind of angle?
Yeah, so we have a platform, we've had one for quite a while, that allows people to model their own Sybil attacks, beginning either with the actual BrightID graph, or you can just make up your own graph to model Sybil attacks on. And that runs using Python. It's actually pretty easy to use, and I recommend it to anyone who wants to experiment with creating new anti-Sybil algorithms for BrightID. We do have the ones that the two that we're focusing on right now are B2 and Aura. And I would say that pretty soon, so B2 is already available for anyone to look at and experiment with. Aura pretty soon, I think, might be available. We're kind of have a slightly different approach to Aura. It's not being built out in the open to begin with. I mean, it's definitely going to be open source software, but we're kind of just starting with a small team that's building it, and then we're going to make it available for everyone to look at once we feel like it's ready. So, but like I said, there's, anyone can experiment with that. We welcome anyone to look at existing verification methods, try out new verification methods, use our anti-Sybil platform that we built that works with BrightID or other social graphs. We've used it to model attacks on like a subset of Facebook and other social graphs as well, not just BrightID. So that's an interesting one to look at.
Awesome. So sorry if I'm not familiar with B2 and Aura, but it sounds like those are improvements to the anti-Sybil algorithms that will be added on, sort of layers on top of what's already there.
Yeah. So the way it works is, I mean, I think Philip can explain it too, but go ahead, Philip.
One of the great things about BrightID is, right, the social graph is there, it's publicly available, you can run any algorithms you want on it. So without, like, V2 doesn't require anything different than the exact flow we've always been using. It's just, okay, now B2 is going to look at it and provide its opinion of the state of the graph and the validation, the verification of each user. Aura will actually have additional information provided, but only by a subset. So the idea is, 2% of users actually want to like play the BrightID game, and 98% of them just want the resulting verification. So Aura sets up a battleground for the serious players to like fight out the anti-Sybil game. And really it's they prove they're good actors, and then the other people on the edges only have to sort of touch the good players, and they get in.
Cool. So they're complementary.
100%. Yeah, right. And as it's set up in the app now, if you have BrightID on your phone, you'll see you already have multiple verifications under your name. So like here's mine. So under my name there, I've got meats and seed and the highest B2 score in the whole game. Y'all got to work on your up your game. And in the future, so Aura would tack under there, and when you create your anti-Sybil algorithm, like, you can get a toss rating under there, and there could be all sorts of these kind of like badges that you have, and then it's up to any given application to decide which of those verifications they want to use in their system. Some can be easy, some can be hard, some can be more bespoke, where it's like really focused on one community. So yeah, the idea is that when the next one comes along, great. It's easy for the next person to create a new algorithm. If it's good enough, applications will use it. And if an application has been using one and they decide to move to another, it's quite seamless for them. most well-connected users will kind of have all the top verifications now and in the future. So from the user perspective, the user doesn't care that you changed algorithms, probably. And if you suddenly don't meet the qualifications for that in some future world, here would be the things you need to do to meet that qualification.
Awesome. Cool. That sounds cool. So yeah, thanks for the update.
Yeah. It's nice to have good questions.
Yeah.
I need
so
to
the-
change to audio
Oh.
only, but I will be around.
Okay, cool. Does anyone else have any other updates? Maybe things that we've been doing? We work on so many different things that sometimes I don't even remember all of them. Does anyone else have any either things that are happening in BrightID that they want to share, or things that they're excited about that may be coming up soon in BrightID? Do we have any? Okay, so another thing we can talk about is we can talk about the state of Bright Dow and things that are coming up there. So I noticed that we have our clusters have been growing. We haven't. I think the only cluster that has been paid yet is the stars cluster, which they help with connection parties. They also help with Discord, answering questions in Discord. So they have formed a colony on Gnosis chain, which is interesting. So to help pay for that effort. But we have the integration cluster, we have the coordination cluster. They've been doing work. I think very soon they should submit proposals to the DAO to get paid in Bright. I think there's another proposal up to extend liquidity farming rewards on Ethereum mainnet. So that's an interesting one you might want to check out in the forum. Yeah, I think that's all I can think of at the moment. I saw an interesting forum post today, kind of an exchange between Kevin Owocki and Glenn Weil on the topic of like, what does Gitcoin look like once it achieves world scale, which is really interesting. So I think I saw it on the Gitcoin forum, if I'm not mistaken. But if you guys want to read that, I think it's cool to see like the interplay between the idealist and the realist, where Kevin Wocky's like, yeah, quadratic funding changed the whole world and all this, and then Glenn, who is like the originator of quadratic funding, comes in and is like, okay, let's put this in perspective, and let's realize that maybe at world scale it doesn't do exactly the same thing that it does at Gitcoin scale, current scale. So anyways, I thought that was an interesting exchange. Any other news or topics that people are interested in right now? We've got probably 20-ish more minutes that we can talk if we want. Yeah, this is a pretty small group compared to what we usually have. Well, let's see, we gave kind of like a little bit of an update on what we're working on. Talked a little bit about the DAO, talked about soulbound to NFTs. Yeah, I don't know, maybe we can end this call early, or do you guys have any other ideas of topics you want to discuss while we're all here? Yep, maybe we'll make this a short call today and just end it at 35 minutes instead of going the full 55 minutes, if everybody's okay. Does anybody object to that? I thought this was a good call. I thought there were good questions, but I don't think we always have to go the full hour if we don't want to. So let people get back to the other stuff that they're doing. But really appreciate you folks. Thanks for stopping in. Thanks for learning more about BrightID. Thanks for all you do, all the work you do on BrightID. And yeah, here's to bigger and better stuff in 2022. See y'all soon.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.